I'm finally back and I really hope this time it's for good. In my last video I made a summer set, but since it's already late autumn and I decided to go for something warmer, and today we're making the super viral reversible jerry crop trench coat by Damson Madder. And yeah, I am Valentina. Welcome everyone to my sewing vlog. After my surgery, I spent a lot of time in bed just scrolling through my feed, and this trench coat keep popping up everywhere on all my favorite influencers. And honestly, I just fell in love with it. The design is stunning, reversible, comfy, so stylish. So I thought, okay, I have to make this coat. And it feels extra special because my very first video in Turkish was also about a reversible quilted jacket. Alright, enough talking, let's dive right in. This coat is completely reversible, which means I really have to put all my sewing skills to the test. All the seams will be enclosed, so I'll need to plan the construction carefully. It also has double patch pockets. They're sewing together with one seam, and one of them is just a teeny bit bigger, about half centimeter. On the original, there's beautiful embroidery, and I'm thinking about stitching my initial instead, what would look so cute. There are also side seam pockets, obviously, of course, which is super practical and obviously hard for me. And the little details really make this coat stand out. White collar with back tabs, double buttons that hold each other, and roomy sleeves with vertical cuffs. And the stars of the show and this coat, the reversible beautiful triangular scarf. Now about the fabrics, that's where I'm still hesitating a bit. I want the coat to look high quality, and trust me, I've gone through what feels like every online fabric store. I've spent so much time searching, and the tricky part, most online stores never mention the fabric density, which is so important for this project. Both fabric need to have a similar weight and structure. I need cotton fabrics, preferably gabardine, I think, with a density of 250 grams per square meter. But I think tonight, maybe tonight, I think I'm praying tonight, I'll finally make my choice. And for the pattern, I used an old one, a classic short pattern I made back in design school. I'll tweak and model it more once it printed out. So let's get started with the pattern making right now. I always make all my patterns myself, and to make sure everything prints correctly, I start with a little test square. I print that first, check the measurement, and only then print the rest of the patterns. I honestly love the whole pattern making process. There's something magical about seeing your drawing slowly turn into an actual piece of clothing. It really feels like a kind of magic to me. Choose my fabric. Now about this pattern. The coat is going to be double-breasted. For now, I made the front overlap about 8 cm wide. The sleeves are flared and a bit wide, and I added seam allowances from 1 to 1.5 cm. By the way, even paper patterns can be slightly adjusted right on the mannequin. So I think pattern pretty much ready. I slightly reshaped the collar and made a little bit wider, just like in the reference photo. And now it's time to move on to the next step, cutting and sewing the mock-up. I'm planning to make one side out of mock-up fabric and other from an old bedsheet just to test everything out. This way I'll see how well my patterns actually work and make any adjustments if needed. Oh, by the way, I ordered the fabrics today. Ta-da! I'm so excited to see how they turn out. We need to cut the mock-up exactly the same way as the main fabric, with all the seam allowances and every single piece included. But, for example, you're making a jacket with a lining, you don't really need to cut the lining for the mock-up, especially if you already know how you're going to attach it later. In my case, I'll be cutting both sides because, honestly, I still can't quite imagine how everything will come together. So I'll just figure it out as I go. I'm continuing to work on my jacket mock-up. I decided to cut both collars the same size because it's the classic version. The under collar is usually about half centimeter smaller along the shoulder and bottom edge. That helps create a natural roll and clean edge on collars. So let's get to sewing. I'm still figuring out of the sewing process. I haven't decided on every detail yet. I think I'll start by simply joining the two sides of the jacket. To make it easier to follow, let's call them the solid side and the plate side from now on. I'm planning to sew it kind of like attaching a lining. And of course, I press every single seam because the iron is a tailor's best friend. Seriously, you can fix almost anything with a good press. I've already interfaced the plate collar. Then I place the two collar pieces, the solid and the plate, right side together and sew from the joining mark up to the neckline. After that, I trim the excess seam allowances and corners. Turn it right side out, give it a good press, and then stitch along the neckline matching the collar. And yeah, back to the iron again. Next, I'm attaching the collar to the jacket from the inside. I start by pinning the center back of the jacket to the center of the collar. That's my main reference point. Then I ease the collar slightly along the notches so it sits nice and smooth. Next, I sew the sleeves along the inner seams and the front edge, matching up all the notches and seam lines. Back to the iron once more. Carefully press all the inner seams flat. And now comes my favorite part. I turn everything right side out and voila, it's done. Hey, so I just finished sewing the mock-up of my jacket. And honestly, it's turned out really cool. But as always, there are quite a few little things I want to adjust. First off, I mixed up the color pieces. I sewed the upper and under color the wrong way around. Not a big deal. I'll fix that in the final version. The sleeves row, I love how they flare at the bottom. That shapes looks perfect. But overall, the jacket feels a little tight. I'm going to add some centimeters along the side seam and slightly flare out the hem. On the back, I'll make the pleat a bit deeper, about 4 centimeters. That's together with widening the sides, should open up the armhole and make it feel more comfortable, I think. I'm also planning to make the front overlap wider, around 15 to 18 centimeter, to give the silhouette a stronger look. I'll widen the neckline by around 1.5 centimeters all around. That automatically makes the collar a bit bigger too all around, since the neckline and the front overlap are changing. So, there are still So there are still a lot of pattern tweaking ahead, but that's totally fine. That's exactly why we make mock-ups, to see how new patterns behave in the real life and to get the perfect fit before sewing the final piece. Ta-da! And just when I started wondering when my package would arrive, here it is! I'm so excited to see what my fabric looks like in real life, and I'm packing together! I think the fabric a bit lighter, thinner. I'd recommend choosing ones that are around 250 grams per square meter. Mine are slightly lighter, but that's what I found and I'll be working with it. But before sewing, make sure to pre-shrink the fabric. The website said to wash them at 30 degrees Celsius with a mild detergent. First, I'm widening the neckline all around about 1.5 centimeters. On the back, I'm adding 2 centimeters to the pleat wide and I'm widening the side 2 centimeters, plus about 7 centimeters at the hem. I'm also dropping the shoulder line by 2 centimeters. Now for the front piece. I'm widening the facing to about 15 centimeters, adjusting the side seam just like I did on the back. Next is the sleeve. I'm adding 2 centimeters on each side along the armhole and lowering the sleeve cap by about 2 centimeters. I'm also making the front edge of the collar a bit wider and slightly expanding the back part. So yesterday I finished the patterns and made the collar a bit bigger, but I'll do the final test once I sew the main part of my jacket. My fabric has dried. In the meantime, it's time to the second part of the press shrinking. I'm going to press it with an iron. After that, I'll start cutting the main fabric. Cutting the main fabric is always such a big deal for me. Honestly, one of the most stressful part of the whole process. I got 2 meters of each fabric and I really hope it's going to be enough. Cutting the solid fabric is actually pretty easy. You can basically just place the pattern pieces however they fit best. But I personally always cut everything in the same direction. I just don't trust the sheen. Sometimes the light hits differently and it can make the pieces look a bit mismatched. When it comes to plate, that's a whole different story. Anytime you work with a patterned fabric, there's just so much more responsibility. You have to make sure the pattern lines up everywhere. I spent the whole evening trying to get it right, and well, I still make mistakes. The plate didn't match at the shoulders, so now that's future me's problem. Okay, so here's the plan. All trench coats should be interfaced, and mine especially because my fabrics turn out a bit thinner than I expected. So interfacing will really help make everything more structured and hold its shape better. I'm going to follow the same interfacing layout that's usually used for a classic blazer. I've already made those pattern pieces based on my main ones, so that part's ready to go. For this project, I'll be using a lightweight fusible interfacing, black colored. I know there are also colored interfacing now that perfectly match your fabric, but honestly, the classic ones work just fine for me. Interfacing needs to be done very carefully. There are even special machines for fusing interfacing. So what I do is I just press it down gently to fuse it. I hold it there for about 10 seconds. After the fusible layer melts and bonds into the main fabric, I leave the iron and let that area cool. And I repeat that for every piece. So that's it, interfacing is done. It took a little longer than I expected, but I'm really happy with how it's turned out. The fabrics already feels more structured. I can tell it's going to make a big difference once the coat is finished. And that's the end of part 1 of this project. In the next video, we'll move on to actually sewing everything together and see how it's all comes together. I really hope it turns out way I imagine. Honestly, I can't wait to finish this trench coat. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means a lot to me. If you like this video, please give it like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss part 2. And of course, leave a comment below. I love reading your sewing tips and just chatting with you. The next video is coming very soon. Bye bye!